How many 4-digit numbers can be formed, part A, if there are no restrictions? First of all, for part A, 4-digit numbers. Now, a 4-digit number, if you think about numbers, 1015 is a 4-digit number. When we talk about numbers, we don't tend to start them with a leading zero. So 0, 1, 2, 3 is really the number 123. So a number doesn't start with 0. Codes can begin with 0. So sort of a hint here that 0 is not the first digit. So we look at this. No other restrictions allowed. Well, notice 1015. That's a 4-digit number. It has repeats, so it's allowed. We have 9 choices for the first spot. All the other spots have 10 choices. Part B, 0 cannot be the first digit, and no digit can be repeated. So 0 is not the first digit. There are 9 other digits. Now, 0 can be used for the last 3 spots, but whatever I use for the first spot, I can't use it again. So there are still 9 digits available, and then 8, and then 7. Part C, 0 cannot be the first digit, no digit can be repeated, and each number form must be even. Well, we start off the problems as well. Each number form must be even. There are 5 even digits. 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. Now, one of those digits got used in the last spot. Now, because we cannot have repeats, that digit can't be used again. So our question is, how many choices do we have for the first spot? Well, the key that we need to think about is, if we use the 0, then I'd have the other 4 digits and all the odd digits that have 9 choices. However, if I'd used a 4 for the last spot, now the 4 has been used and the 0 cannot be used. So notice now there's 2 numbers that cannot be in the first spot, so we have a problem. Without knowing what the last spot is, I can't tell you how many choices there are for the first spot. There's different number of choices depending on if the last digit is a 0 or if the last digit was a 2, 4, 6, or 8. So what we have to do is to break this up into 2 parts. So we break this up into 2 piles, the numbers that end in 0 and the numbers that end in 2, 4, 6, and 8. So start off with the first one. If we put a 0 in the last spot, there's 1 choice there. 0 can't be used. There are 9 other digits for the first spot. We've used 2 digits, and then 8 times 7 for the 2 in the middle. Now if we're going to let the number be even but not be a 0, there are 4 choices there, a 2, 4, 6, 8. Whatever I pick out of this group for the last spot I cannot use again. I also cannot use a 0 in the first spot, so there are now 8 choices left. Now there's no more restrictions on the inside pieces except the fact that I cannot use digits that are being used. I already used 2 digits, so there's 8 and then 7 left. Now we take both piles, multiply them together, and then add the piles together, add those 2 numbers together to get our final answer. Serial numbers assigned to calculators by manufacturer have a first symbol, one of the letters J, H, or T. So there's our first symbol, to indicate the plant from which it's made, followed by one of the numbers 01, 02, all the way to 12 to indicate the month in which it's made, followed by 4 digits. Now the most common mistake on this is for the 01 through 12, in other words the month, look at that as a single unit. If you try to break that up into 2 blanks, this problem gets really hard. So we go back to this. The first spot has a J, H, or T. So there are 3 letters that can go in that spot. 01 to 12, there are 12 symbols there for the months. And then followed by 4 digits. Well, those last 4 digits are numbers. When I think about to a serial code, a serial number is a code, so you could have 0001, 0002, and you can have repeats. So each of these last 4 spots have 10 choices. Question 9. If a firm has 600 employees, what is the smallest number of digits that an employee ID number can have if each ID has X digits? Well, number of digits. And an ID number is actually a code. Well, if you have 1 digit, we look at this and say, well, we had 10 codes. Well, we have 600 employees, 1 digit's not enough. 2 digits, these are codes, so there are 10 choices for each code. And that gives me 100 codes, not enough. 3 digits. Now with 3 digits, each spot has 10 choices. And that's 1,000 codes. I have 600 employees, I have 1,000 codes. So that's what I need in order for everybody to have their own code. What's the smallest number if the firm has 12,000 employees? Well, if I add another digit, in other words multiply by 10, that is 10,000. Not enough, so I need another one, gives me 5. Now, if you wanted to, you could also start this problem that says, well, 10 to the x is equal to, for part A, 600. For part B, you could say that 10 to the x is equal to 12,000. Solve those equations. Solve for x. Now, solving it's going to be using logarithms, but it is an alternate method of solving this problem and round up to the next integer. Next question. How many ways can a 10-question true-false test be answered? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 blanks. 1 blank for each question. Now it's true-false. Now we're going to make an assumption real quick here. If we assume that every question has to be answered, then each blank has 2 choices. Either true or false, or in other words, 2 to the 10th. If we assume that questions can be left blank, so in other words, true, false, and possible blank, then there would be 3 choices. So each place those by each of those choices of 2 by 3, and it gives us 3 to the 10th. Normally, unless otherwise mentioned, we assume that the entire test is answered. In how many ways can a 10-question multiple-choice test be answered if there are 4 choices for each question? Well, if you look back to question 10, we had 10-question true-false, so if you had 10 blanks, now each question has 4 choices, so each blank will have a 4 in it. And so we see that our answer is 4 to the 10th. This is, of course, assuming that all the questions are answered. Question 12. How many different car license plates can be made using 3 letters followed by 3 digits? So for part A, 3 letters followed by 3 digits. Now, license plates, if you think back to license plates you've seen, they've repeated the same letter, they've repeated the same digit, so no restrictions means any letter we want. So 26 times 26 times 26, there's our 3 letters. And digits, No restrictions on the digits, so 10 times 10 times 10. Part B says no letter can be repeated. So 26 choices for the first letter, 25 choices, and then 24. There's our 3 letters. Now nothing's been said about digits, so we can still repeat digits, so each digit has 10 choices. Part C, no letter can be repeated, and 0 cannot be used as the first digit. So the 26, 25, 24 doesn't change. In terms of the digits, they say that 0 can't be the first digit, so we have 9 choices for the first one. Doesn't say anything about the last 3, so we all have 10 choices for the last 2 spots. How many different car license plates can be made using 2 letters followed by 4 digits? Part A is no restrictions. So we have our 2 letters and 4 digits. So we can have repeats, so 26 times 26. And we have repeats for the digits, so 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Part B, no letter can be repeated. So 26 choices for the first letter, 25 for the next one. Nothing was said about the digits, so each digit still has 10 choices. Part C, the last digit must be a 4, and no digit can be repeated. Now, Part C doesn't say anything about letters, so we have 26 times 26. Now, the last digit has to be a 4, so there's 1 choice there. No digit can be repeated, so we have 9 digits left, and then 8 times 7. How many different 4-letter radio station call letters are there if each must begin with a K or a W? Well, we have 2 choices, has to be a K or W. So if you think for your call signs for your radio stations, can you have any repeats? Well, if you think through some of the ones you've probably listened to, the answer is yes. So there are 26 choices for the last 3 spots. Each must begin with a K or a W, and no letter can be repeated. So we have 2 choices for the first one, K or W. Now, 1 letter's been used. If a K was used first, we can still use a W on one of the last 3 spots. Or if a W is used, then we can use a K. So there are 25 choices for the next spot, and then 24 and 23. Part C, each must begin with a K or a W, no letter can be repeated, and the last must be a Z. So we know the last spot has to be a Z, there's 1 choice. The first one has to be a K or a W, there's 2 choices. Now 2 of the letters have been used, 24 choices for that spot, and 23 choices for that spot.